What's up YouTube? George Silver Hunter here with a video on how to identify the various varieties that I look for when I hunt half dollars. So the coins we're going to look at today are the 71D, the 72D no FG, the 73D DDO, the 82P no FG, the 83P no FG, and the 74 DDO. Let's jump into it. So I'm doing this video because I was actually asked by Mo Money Inc. I know that his family, like his son and his son's girlfriend and Mo Money Inc. himself, they all have channels on YouTube. I know they all CoinRoll hunt, and they're not super knowledgeable on errors and varieties. And he asked me in a live stream if I could spend some time going over identifying these coins and what to look for. Now, I'm hoping in my examples, I'll pick some of the best ones I have. Some of them may be weak. You may disagree with some of them, but I will try to cover if I think mine are weak, what you should be looking for. So with that, I'm going to get each of these under my digital scope. If you need a digital scope, quick plug, go to Amazon, or actually go down below this video and click on my Amazon affiliate link for this digital pluggable microscope. I know a lot of folks and the coin community use this scope. I love it. I've been using it now for about 18 months, and it does a great job. So all the close-up video you're going to see today comes from that scope. So that said, let's get these things underneath. I'll go through them one at a time and do my best to explain to you what you're looking for. So we're actually going to start with the 1971 Denver DDO. And before we actually look at the coin under the scope, I want to point out a resource. I've done this in a lot of my previous videos. It's a great resource for learning, or at least identifying the various varieties of coins that are out there. And it is varietyvista.com. And it's a relatively easy site to use anyway. You'll see down here, as you scroll down, there's all kinds of coins. They start at Lincoln cents and they go all the way up to golden dollars. And there's actually a section that describes what are die varieties. What we're going to focus on today, though, is Kennedy halves. So we're going to go ahead and drill into the Kennedy halves. We are looking for DDOs, so we're going to go into the DDO listing. And as I said, we're going to start with the 1971D DDO. And you'll notice anywhere where there's a hyperlink, that means there is a DDO to be found in that particular coin. So in my hunts, I only look for a handful of DDOs because they're common. There's a lot more of them out there to find. And if you want to learn more about them, you can come into Variety Vista and click on any one of these links. Just because they're here, it doesn't mean they're necessarily DDOs that are recognized by PCGS or some of the other grading companies. So I think that's also a reason a lot of other CoinRoll hunters don't spend a lot of time on those other various DDOs. So here's the 1971D DDO. I have one in front of me that I've said in the past was an FS101. You can see through here there's lots of different varieties that they have for DDOs, but you'll see here the FS101 is here, the FS102 is here, and I believe I have one of each. And I've kept my coins in the flip, so they may be a little bit hard to see. And if I feel like they are, I will take the coins out of the flip. But if I get up here, just so you can see, here's my 101. And the coin is, in fact, a 1971D. And I'll try to work around the glare that is created by this plastic. And just to show you, since I have an FS101, they actually take pictures of each part of the coin so you can see for various markers that are on the coin. So you can see here on the T, you get a little bit of doubling on the T here and here. The I, you can see there's another base of an I and another little kind of tick of an I. The Y is a little elongated. I'm just showing you the things that I recognize as I look through these pictures, because some of them, it may not be obvious that there's anything. You can see in the word trust, you've got some doubling of the serifs on the R's and a little bit of doubling on the S, right, and the T. For your coin to be one of these things, it doesn't mean you have to have all of these markers, but generally the more of these markers you can find, the better, right? So a couple of these I pointed out, like the T, this I, the elongation on the Y, and so on and so forth. Let's get over to my coin and look at it under the scope. So, and let me make this a little bit bigger. It'll make it easier for you guys. So if we look here, you can see straight away I have, the base of the eye is here. You can see a little bit of another base and it's sticking out here. But we also have two different caps to the eye. So this would be doubling on this eye that's similar to the picture from Variety Vista. If I come over here to the word trust, and this is a little bit hard and some folks may argue with me. Some of this could be the plastic, but to me, I've got doubling on the serifs on this U, and I may have to manipulate this a little bit so you can see the light hit it just right, but you can kind of see it there. You have some doubling on this S, right? So you can see there's an S here, and you can see a line here from where there's another part of an S, and a little bit up here at the top of the S, and the T is a little elongated. To me, I can see sort of two serifs on this T. Some folks may say that's mint damage. I don't agree, but to me, I've got enough doubling in the U, the S, and the T for me to believe that this is an FS 101. And even here on the R, you can see I've got a little bit of the stem doubled here. The telltale signs on the Y and the T are there. You can see just how elongated this Y is here. And when I pull the T up, you can see very clearly that we have some doubling here on this bit of the serif, and I've got a doubling on the T here. And the base of the T is also a little bit wider. So in general, those are the things I look for when I look at 1971s, when I quickly put them under the scope. If you ever see me do it in my videos, I generally take a quick look at this T, and usually I look at the I, and I'll quickly run over here and just look at the RUST to see if I can see any kind of doubling or shadowing within the letters. And if I do, then I really will zoom in. I'll try to get a little bit closer. I'll adjust the light, and I can tell you this looks a little bit better when it's not under this plastic, but I think there's enough here for you to see it. So now we're going to move on to the FS 102, which you'll see here, the 1971D, DDO. Again, we've got that sort of split serif in the T. Maybe on the I, this looks a little wide to me. That's something I would look for. Maybe in the stem of the B. This is very subjective though, so I don't like to work off of it. Again, telltale on this I, you can see very clearly we've got two very clear serifs of the I on the top and the bottom. What else jumps out at me? Now you'll notice here the R, U, S, and T, there's not really any doubling in the 102, so that's not a marker for the FS 102. So really the main things we're looking for is this doubling kind of in the N. You can see here in the base of the N, the I, and some split serifs here in the T, and maybe some widening of these L, I, and B. Again, when I look at these, I typically look for the I and the T. Those are my main markers that I work off of, and of course the RUST to see which one I might have. So let's get my coin out here. You can see this is a 71D. I've listed it as a 102. Feel free to argue with me in the comments down below if you think I'm wrong. But when I come over here, it's a little bit blurry, but you can see this is really wide. This is kind of split here. Come over here to the I and the N. I think this is the main thing that I focused in on. And let me embiggen this for you. Yeah, this is where it really shows. On the I, you can see again, I have two clear serifs on the I. You can see it even here and here. And the base of my I is here and here. And there's a little bit of a split in the N. So this one's not super strong, but for me, this was enough for me to call it an FS 102. And you can see on the L, very wide here. The I really stretched out. And the B as well. We've got a lot of stretching. You can almost see we've got a little bit of a double serif here and here. But the base of this, the base of this B is really spread out. And if I take it back to our shore, again, you can see how wide this B is, how wide and how far out this I comes. So there were enough markers here that I felt like this was an FS102. All right, so those are probably my best two 1971Ds. They're not great, but they're ones I've found in the past. We are going to move on to the 1972D No FG, and this is exactly what it sounds like. We should not need Variety Vista to locate this one, but we can use it if we like. Just so you can see on my flip, I say it's a 72D. The coin, in fact, is a 72D, and all half dollars have FG on the back right here in the crook of the eagle's leg, so between the tail and this right hand leg. And a lot of people argue over this one because there's many that have a weak FG. So if you turn it just right in the light, you can see some remnants of a G or some raised metal that would be an F and a G. And so a lot of times you'll see people, myself included, kind of rotate this thing around to see, can you see any raised metal at all? And for a lot of people, if there's raised metal that even resembles an F or a G, or takes up the space that would be an F or a G, they throw it out. They say it doesn't qualify. And as you could see from that one, I did do like a 180-degree turn and didn't have any F or G. Here's another coin. It's another one that I have. It's a 72D. This is a different one. This one too, completely flat. I'll put it over here so it's not quite in that thing. You've got a little bit of raised metal here, but you can't tell it's part of a G or an F, right? You've got just a little dot. And if you go on PCGS, you'll see, and you'll see it later in my 82s and 83s, you'll see just a little bit of metal right here and right here, but no actual letters. And some of the pictures on PCGS look like that exactly. So I'm going all the way around, and you just can't see an F or a G. See maybe a little bit here, but not enough to tell that's a G. So that is the 1972D No FG, and I've actually gotten to the point where I can see those mostly with my naked eye with the right light on it, because the F and the G and the raised metal give just enough of a reflection of the light that I can check them without a scope, and if I can't see an FG with the naked eye, I then put them under the scope. So we're going to go back here to Variety Vista, and we are going to click on the 1973D. Here's the FS101, and you can see just from this picture how badly the RUS&T is in a FS101 DDO. And keep in mind, there are other examples that they have in here, but we're going to look at this one because this is what I believe I have. Just to go quickly through it, you can see some doubling on the L, the I, and the B. And this is one marker a lot of people look for first. I usually look for this second. In some examples of this, you may find a little bit of doubling in the T and the R, or maybe even in the Y, some spreading here. But the really big sign is in the R, U, S, and T. And even in this example, they have some splitting on the T here. You can see a doubling in the U, doubling in the S. So there's a lot that this one shows. We're going to put mine under the scope and see what we have. So here is our 1973D, I believe to be a DDO. So you can see right here in the 3, it's not real strong, but you've got a little bit of a shadow of another 3, and even here you can see some splitting in the serif here. That would not be a huge telltale sign for me, and that would be easy to miss. I think the real markers are when you get up here and look in the U and the S and even the R. And again, apologies, this is under plastic, so maybe it's not showing through as well as it could or should, but you can see clearly here I have 2 S's, right? There's an S that runs through here and an S that runs underneath it through here. And we've got a doubling in the serifs on the T. And I think this U is really spread out. You can see the split here. So there's a U and a U. And this isn't machine doubling because we actually have 2 of each letters. Machine doubling is where the machine actually stamps the coin twice and you end up with like a raised U and then a U that's very shallow, like it's a sharp edge, right? A sharp platform. Even the R has a few markers on it. It's got a really wide base here. And maybe I'm just pretending this is here, but I feel like I see a little bit of two R's in here. But this R is thicker than it should be because there's really two of them there. Let's get over here and look at the L, the I, and the B to see if we have any of those markers. Let me turn this way. So the L, a little spread out, but not any real doubling. Same with the I, and when I say spread out, you can see it's kind of like slid sideways. And with the B, you can actually see it a little bit better. So you can see this very, I won't say defined line, but you can see that there's two little serifs here on the B, and there's that line that's very, very similar to what you see here. So that is the 1973 DDO, and those are the things I look for, that L, the I, and the B, and then that doubling in the word trust. So we're going to move on to the 82 and the 83P. They're both Philadelphia coins. They're no FGs as well. They are easy to spot because just like the 72, here we are on an 82P. No FG. We're looking for it in the exact same spot. And there it is. Let me make it a little bit bigger. You can see we have a little bit of metal here and maybe a little bit there, which again, if you look on PCGS.com or even Variety Vista, you may see some that have these two little notches right here, but the rest is completely flat. And that is true no matter how I rotate this coin. It is 100% flat. So like I said, really easy to see with the naked eye. You don't need a scope. The scope just helps. So here's an 83, and you can see some of these are not in great shape, but I hang on to them either way because, well, they're fines. So actually, this is one that now that I have it flipped and I'm looking here, I could argue this isn't. So you can see kind of, it almost looks like a number 6. This is one I'm going to argue with myself. I'm not sure that was a good flip. Let's look at this 83P. I have another one. So this is what I'm talking about. For some coin roll hunters, that's not enough of the letters to call this a no FG because you can see a little bit of something here, raised metal, and kind of a G there. A lot of coin roll hunters would say that does not qualify. So let's look at one of my other ones that I have flipped up. It's an 83P. And there we go. You can see clearly in this one, no F or G. It is flat. You know, there's a little bit of noise in here from the reflection on the light, but no clear lettering. I've got one more. Let's see. I'm going to put one more under here. It's an 83P. And there we go again. No F or G down there in the crook of the leg. So I have found 3 or 4. I just showed you 3 of them. I have found some others in my lifetime, but the 83 is, to me, the toughest one to find of the no FGs. Most of my 72s I've actually sold on eBay and done pretty well with them. The 74D, one of the other questions I get is, what is the one I found the most of? And the answer is the 74D DDO. I think I've found more of those than anything else. And in my hand right here, I'm holding, I think, 5 of them. I've got a 6th one here that I actually took out of the flip just because I wanted to be able to show it to you. And I found this in a recent video back in June. So this is the 1974D DDO. And I'm not going to pull it up on Variety Vista because I've kind of shown you how to do that already, but this is one you can clearly see. Well, maybe not as clearly as I would like here. But you can see the doubling. I've got a part of an R here. I've got some double in the T. I've got multiple serifs here. two different serifs of the U here. I've got an S and an S, a T and a T. You can see there's a T down here. So I clearly have doubling of the T, R, U, S, and T. And this jumps out at you when you've seen enough of these. Most of the time, the lettering doesn't have any kind of extra serif or any kind of weird, kind of blurry look to it. But the really telltale sign, and there's a lot of coin roll hunters that only look for this marker, and it's right here, this little notch in the 4. You actually have this part of the 4 is also right here. It's just underneath this part. So you have the bottom of a 4 and the bottom of a 4, and this notch is the telltale giveaway. So if you look at anything, look at this little notch in the 4, and there are other coin roll hunters that will tell you the other easy way to spot this type of DDO is to look at the T. And this is also another really good example. You can see just how spread out and wide this T is, and you can see I've got part of this T. The reason it's wide and spread out is there's a T here, but there's another T that's right here, right? And it extends beyond this other T. So this is not a traditional machine doubling. This is actually a double die obverse. Sometimes you can find that same thing, and then this is another good example in the Y. So you can see I've got the base of a Y here and the base of a Y here. You can see it, a little bit of the line here too from a second part of another Y. So those are the things I look for, and look at the S and the T in this light. You can see it really well. See the double base of the T. So as you do this, if you have a microscope, you'll learn to get really fast at this, but don't be afraid. Sometimes your eye won't see it when it's right side up, or the light's hitting it wrong when it's right side up. Turn it upside down. Your brain will see these letters differently, right? So look at how much more this U jumps out when it's upside down. Look how much more this notch jumps out when it's upside down. So sometimes I'll catch myself doing that. If I'm not sure, I'll turn it sideways. I'll turn it upside down. I'll make sure the light hits it a little bit differently, just so my brain has an opportunity to take that information and look at it differently, because you can get really used to seeing the same thing over and over again. So those are just some pointers for those of you that may be new to coin roll hunting, that are looking for your half dollars and looking for other varieties to find. Sorry for the weird cut. My screen cap just died on me. But I guess what I was saying is, for a lot of coin roll hunters that do, 2, 3, 4, 8, 10 boxes of halves a week, you're going to run into those times where if you're only edge hunting for silver, you're going to get skunked, 9 out of 10 boxes or 10 out of 10 boxes. And at the end of the day, your time is valuable, of course. So you want to rip through those quickly and get them back to the bank. But if you want to extract the maximum value out of your boxes, stopping every now and then to look for these DDOs can be quite lucrative. And I'll just show you why here quickly. If you go to PCGS and go into their price guide, I'm going to come down here to half dollars. You will see weird things like RPM, FS502, right? That means repunched mint mark. FS502 is just the coding that coin got. Just showing you it jumps out. So you'll see here's the 71D. There's a plus sign next to it. If I click on that, you'll see there's an FS101 and an FS102, which goes back to what I just showed you guys. So if you find a 1971D FS101 or 102 in, say, MS60 condition, meaning it's not all beat to crap, right? It still has good detail. It doesn't look like it's been dropped in a vat of tar. You might, right out of the box, find an MS60 FS101. You can see here $38 to $42 when graded. Heaven forbid you get one that's gorgeous, right? And you send that thing off to get graded and you come back at MS66 or 67. You might have a $400 to $800 coin on your hands, right? So these things can be pretty valuable. A 1972D no FG, an MS66, there's a reason that it's 4,500, and it's because the 72D no FG historically had a weak backstrike, and you'll notice on most of them, if you ever find them, the tail feathers are really flat, right? There's not a lot of detail there because I believe it's because the die was damaged and or it was weak, so that there's no definition to the tail feather. So if you can find one in MS66 condition, you're doing really, really well, because there's probably a handful of them in existence, and they were made when the die was still relatively good. And you can see here, even on their MS66, there's very little definition on the tail feathers, right? And you can see here in the blow-up picture, there is no remnant of that FG. But if you can find something that looks on the front like it's really, really nice, good hair detail, you can get you an MS66 or 67. You know, it's great that you're out there finding your 10 pieces of 40% silver, but I can tell you what, I'd rather find me an MS66 1972D no FG. That is a much better find for you in a box. The reality of you finding one is slim to none. I get that, but, you know, CoinRollHunting is treasure hunting, in my opinion, so you should keep your eye out for these things. So moving on here, the 74D DDO, you know, if you find one in a good mint state condition, you're $34 to, you know, call it $125. Finding that MS66 is going to be hard. But, you know, low mint state, you're $34 to $50. This is, you know, the equivalent of 3 90% silver coins, or the equivalent of, what is that, 6 or 7, maybe 8 40% silver coins. So that's why in my coin roll hunts, if I find a DDO, you'll see that I get kind of excited about it, because it turned that silver skunk box into something valuable. So anyway, I think I've rambled on enough. I think, at least I hope, I've educated you a little bit on the standard die or variety coins that I look for when I hunt a box. And I'll be honest, I don't always look at every coin in every box looking for DDOs. Sometimes I get bored and I skip through it and just edge hunt. It happens. But if you're going to take the time to look through every single coin, you know, pull the nicer looking ones. Pull the really good, you know, 71Ds and 74D DD or 74D coins aside. If they look like they might be mint state, throw them under the scope. It'll only cost you a second, and you might have a really nice find on your hands. So I hope this was informative. I hope you liked it. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you'd go down below this video and click that like button, because it really helps in the search algorithm. Leave me a comment down below, because I love hearing from folks that are watching my videos. I love to interact with you guys. And I'll always give you a heart or a like, or even say thanks for the feedback, right? Thanks for the input. The best thing you can do for me, though, is go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And then click that little bell and select all, so you get notified every time I release a new video. It really helps the channel out. It helps me out. It gives me the drive to keep making more videos. And I really, really appreciate it. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much. Take care. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.